Today's lesson is Should Extinction Be Undone? Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And the title for today's lesson is actually a question, and we're going to try to answer this question in today's lesson. And the question is, should extinction be undone? Extinction, of course, refers to when plants or animals don't exist anymore. They all die out like the dinosaurs. But should we undo it? Should we bring back some of these extinct animals or plants in order to benefit the world somehow?
I didn't even know that it was possible to bring back extinction or to undo it. I thought that once the animal or plant was gone, it was gone forever. But evidently, it's possible to undo extinction. To undo something means to change the situation to its previous state. So when you undo extinction, it means you are bringing that animal or that plant that was extinct back to life. And undone here is the past tense of undo, and we're going to look at how extinction can be undone.
Exactly. So maybe you saw the movie Jurassic Park many years ago in which they brought dinosaurs back from extinction. But of course, that's fiction, and we don't really know if science can actually do that. But as we're going to find out in today's lesson, scientists can sort of do that in a certain way. So we have to ask this question, should we bring back extinct animals in order to save the world? So let's find out what this is all about. Let's read through the entire contents of the first part of our lesson, and then we'll come back to discuss it.
Should extinction be undone? Wouldn't it be incredible to live in a world where woolly mammoths roam the earth once again? Surprisingly, this scenario might not be as far-fetched as it sounds. In fact, a team of scientists is already striving to bring these ancient creatures back to life by using advanced gene editing technology. The team hopes that the mammoths, which would technically be closer to elephant-mammoth hybrids, could be a weapon against global warming.
大家好，第一部分我们看到名词 scenario， 指可能发生的情况或是设想。举例来说 Tony tried to imagine a scenario where he was rich and famous. Tony 试图想象个他变得富有且有名的情况。另外补充一个相关片语 worst case scenario， 表示最坏的可能或是最糟的情况。我们可以说 In the worst case scenario, the company goes bankrupt and everyone loses their jobs. 最糟的下场是公司破产，然后大家都丢了饭碗。或是 In the worst case scenario, the businessman is looking at 10 years in jail for fraud. 最坏的情况是这位商人会因诈骗遭囚刑10年。
So the first sentence in today's lesson is another question. Wouldn't it be incredible to live in a world where woolly mammoths roam the earth once again? So many, many years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, woolly mammoths roamed the earth. So to roam means to walk about, to go from place to place. And these animals walked on the earth thousands upon thousands of years ago. These animals are woolly mammoths, and they are animals that resemble our modern-day elephant. They look like elephants, but there is a slight difference. They're ivory, the two front teeth, the tusks, are much longer and curved, and they are hairy, so that's why they're called woolly mammoths.
So, of course, they lived thousands of years ago. I think they even disappeared before China started to exist. That's kind of hard to believe. But in any case, we can imagine a world, or can you imagine a world, in which these furry elephants mammoths are walking all over the world. They are roaming the earth. So here we've got roam, and that's spelled R-O-A-M. It's a verb. It just means you kind of walk around, and you're not really going in a specific direction. You're just going wherever you want to. I suppose the woolly mammoths roamed the earth because they were looking for things to eat.
So this is a scenario that used to exist, but it might happen again. We might have this scenario again. It says, surprisingly, this scenario might not be as far-fetched as it sounds. So first of all, a scenario is just a situation that could be real or it could be in your imagination. And the scenario that we're referring to is the existence of woolly mammoths, the fact that they may exist once again. And this scenario isn't as far-fetched as it may sound. So something is far-fetched when it's unlikely to happen or difficult to believe. And the fact that woolly mammoths can exist again in our modern world does seem far-fetched. It does seem difficult to believe. But the writer here says that it's not really far-fetched because it could actually happen.
Yep, this is an imaginary situation. It's a scenario. Please note that this word can also be pronounced scenario. Both pronunciations are correct. In fact, a team of scientists is already striving to bring these ancient creatures back to life by using advanced gene editing technology. So we've got some scientists working in different parts of the world, and they're striving to do this. If you strive to do something, you want to achieve something, you're working hard to achieve something. So, of course, you're striving to complete your education, for example, so that you can get a good job in the future and make a ton of money. You're striving to get ahead in the world. And so here the scientists are striving to bring these ancient creatures back to life. They want to bring back these woolly mammoths. But they don't want to do it just because they want to have these as pets or something. They want to bring them back for a specific purpose, but the technology that they're using is called gene editing. You do something with their genes.
Right. Gene editing is when DNA is inserted or taken out from a total amount of genetic information in a living thing. So you're basically editing or changing the features of a particular living thing by basically changing its genetic information.
The team hopes that the mammoths, which would technically be closer to elephant-mammoth hybrids, could be a weapon against global warming. So they're not really going to be 100% woolly mammoths. Technically speaking, they would be closer to an elephant-mammoth hybrid. A hybrid, of course, is a mixture of one thing and another. You've probably seen hybrid cars driving around. They're kind of a mix of a car that uses gasoline and electricity.
Yes, and this elephant-mammoth hybrid could be a weapon against global warming. So again, we're talking about climate change and global warming, which is a big problem today, and people around the world, politicians, scientists, are trying to figure out ways to put a stop to this situation. And this is one other way of trying to stop global warming, which is to bring back the woolly mammoth in the form of an elephant-mammoth hybrid.
So it'd be kind of a mixture of an elephant and a woolly mammoth, kind of like a mule is a mixture between a donkey and a horse. Well, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part and find out more.
When they were alive, woolly mammoths lived on vast grassy plains in the Arctic. The grasses that covered these landscapes happened to be excellent at reflecting the sun's radiation. Mammoths helped preserve these grasses by trampling competing plants. As mammoths disappeared, the land was taken over by shrubs and small trees, which were less effective at keeping the surface cool. Reintroducing mammoths could reverse this effect. Indeed, many extinct species played an important role in maintaining the stability of their natural environments. Bringing these species back could help heal the planet's damaged systems.
第二部分我们看到单字 trample， 这个字是动词，指踩踏或是践踏，像是 The gardener was angry when some children trampled over his roses. 有些小孩踩踏园丁的玫瑰，让他十分恼火。也可以说 Several people were trampled as the crowd rushed to the stage. 有些人在群众涌向舞台时被踩伤了。
Now let's find out more about the woolly mammoth, what it was like, how it lived. It says here, when they were alive, woolly mammoths lived on vast grassy plains in the Arctic. So thousands upon thousands of years ago, these animals lived in the Arctic, which is the region that is the most northern part of the world, and they lived on vast grassy plains. So they didn't live in the mountains or in rocky places. These are flat lands, and they were covered with grass.
Right, so those would be areas like Siberia in Russia or in northern Canada, and they roamed around and they were looking for grass to eat or something to eat, and the grasses that covered these landscapes happened to be excellent at reflecting the sun's radiation. Now, if you're talking about different kinds of grass, then it can be countable grasses, different species of grass, but generally speaking, grass is a non-count noun. Hey, there's too much grass in the backyard. We need to mow the grass. Can you do that this Saturday or something like that? But in this particular case, we're talking about different kinds of grass that covered these landscapes in the Arctic regions of the world, and they happen to be excellent at reflecting the sun's radiation. So, of course, we've got radiation coming down from the sun, UV radiation and stuff like that, and the grasses there were very good at reflecting the sun's radiation back out into space. I think they say the same thing about snow. It reflects the light from the sun and sends it right back out into space. Hence, it does not warm up our planet.
That's right. And mammoths help preserve these grasses by trampling competing plants. So mammoths, how do they help these grasses, which reflect the sun's radiation? They help preserve these grasses by trampling competing plants. So to preserve something, first of all, is to prevent something from being harmed. So they prevented these grasses from being harmed by trampling competing plants. To trample means to step on something. When you trample something, you step on it and you harm or you destroy it by stepping on it. So in other words, these mammoths helped keep these grasses healthy and thriving by stepping on competing plants, plants that were competing with these grasses for space.
So the grass remained, and as mammoths disappeared, the land was taken over by shrubs and small trees, which were less effective at keeping the surface cool. So the mammoths disappeared for some reason, and therefore there were no big, heavy animals to trample on those plants. So the plants could grow, and the land was taken over by those plants, and those other plants included shrubs and small trees. So a shrub is like a bush. In American English, we say bushes. I think in England, they tend to say shrubs or shrubbery. And in this particular case, these small bushes, these small trees were able to grow over all that grass, and there wasn't so much grass there anymore. And these shrubs and small trees were not very good at reflecting the radiation back out into space. Hence, the surface of the Earth got warmer.
That's right. So reintroducing mammoths could reverse this effect. In other words, if mammoths existed today, they would still be able to trample the competing plants, trample shrubs and small trees, and destroying these shrubs and trees would allow the grass to do its job, which is reflecting the sunlight.
Exactly. So, yes, if you brought those mammoths back, that's what could happen here. We could reverse this effect. If you reverse something, of course, you go backwards when something was going forward, and you change direction. So you want to go back to the original direction you were going. So you reverse it. Of course, everyone's talking about reversing climate change. Maybe we can start cooling the temperature down again so it doesn't get so hot. Let's reverse this. And, of course, we want to reverse this effect. And indeed, many extinct species played an important role in maintaining the stability of their natural environments. So we have other examples besides the woolly mammoths. Many extinct species did play an important role in keeping things stable. So stability just refers to the state of things being stable. They didn't go one way or the other way too much. They were in the middle. They were balanced. So, of course, we had other extinct species out there. Maybe the saber-toothed tiger or other creatures like that had some kind of role to play in keeping things in check, keeping them in balance.
That's right. And the idea is that bringing these species back could help heal the planet's damaged systems. And this is one idea. How are we going to try to reverse the effects of climate change? Well, we could try to bring back these animals that are now extinct and let them do their natural jobs of helping the planet.
But, of course, like they said in Jurassic Park, these animals had their shot, but nature selected them for extinction, and maybe they should stay extinct, or should we muck around with this stuff and bring them back? That's a good moral question that you can all talk about amongst yourselves. But let's move on now to the final part of our lesson. We'll listen to it first, and then we'll talk about it.
However, not everyone involved in conservation thinks de-extinction is a good idea. There are limited resources available for conservation efforts, and de-extinction is incredibly expensive. For the cost of bringing one species back to life, traditional conservation efforts could save up to 8 endangered ones. Moreover, the planet's environmental systems have moved on since many of these long-gone species lived. Inserting them back into today's environments would be like trying to force a cog from an old machine into a modern-day computer. The results would be unpredictable, to say the least. As wonderful as it would be to see an extinct species live again, the costs and risks of such projects are simply too high to justify, at least from the standpoint of conservation. Currently, it makes more financial sense to try and save the species we are fortunate enough still to have.
第三部分我们看到单字 conservation， 这个字是名词，指保护或是保育。举例来说 ，In the 1970s, large numbers of people became concerned about the conservation of the natural environment. 在1970年代，许多人开始关心自然环境的保护。也可以说 This organization raises money to pay for the conservation of historic buildings. 这个组织筹措经费来保护历史建筑。另外补充这个字的动词 conserve, C-O-N-S-E-R-V-E, conserve, 意思是保护、保存或是节省。例如Various organizations made an effort to try to conserve the ancient woodland. 多个机构做了努力，试图保护这片古老的林地。或是 We need to start conserving our money or it won't last till the end of our trip. 我们得开始省钱，否则撑不到旅程结束。接着我们看到形容词 unpredictable， 指无法预测的或是难以预料的。像是The weather this week has been pretty unpredictable, so don't bother paying attention to the forecast. 这星期的天气相当变化莫测，所以不用费心去注意气象预测。最后我们看到动词 justify， 表示证明点点点为合理或是正当。我们可以说 The senators brought up the lack of funding for public schools to justify a nationwide tax increase. 参议员提出公立学校资金短缺来合理化全国增税。也可以说 Jurors listened as the criminal tried to justify his actions. 陪审员听着那名罪犯努力为自己的行为辩解。
So there are some people who think that it's a good idea to bring back extinct species because they can help heal the planet's damaged systems. However, not everyone involved in conservation thinks de-extinction is a good idea. So first of all, this term de-extinction refers to undoing extinction, of bringing back animals that are already extinct. So that's called de-extinction. And not everyone involved in conservation, in other words, not everyone who works in trying to manage the land and water in ways that prevent land and water from being damaged or destroyed, conservation, thinks that de-extinction is a good idea. They think that maybe there are dangers involved, risks that we can't foresee, and maybe we shouldn't be too enthusiastic about it.
Yep, there are limited resources available for conservation efforts, and de-extinction is incredibly expensive. So yes, indeed, we should be spending our money wisely here. For the cost of bringing one species back to life, traditional conservation efforts could save up to 8 endangered ones. So yes, so why spend money on extinct species when we can save ones that still exist? If you're endangered, that means you're about to go extinct. I think like the Formosan black bear is endangered, it might go extinct soon.
That's right. So we need to spend our money wisely if we want to spend it to try to help the environment, to save the planet. Moreover, the planet's environmental systems have moved on since many of these long-gone species lived. So that's another good point. The planet, the environmental systems on our planet aren't the same as they were thousands and thousands of years ago. They've changed. They've changed in perhaps not so obvious ways that we can notice because these changes happen very slowly. But the idea is that if you bring back these extinct animals, they may not be able to survive in today's environmental systems. These environmental systems have moved on, meaning they have changed according to changes in time. And here the word moreover is used when you want to add a piece of information or emphasize something that you have already said.
Right, so you need to move on, or at least the world has moved on, it's changed, and of course it's moved on since these long-gone species lived. They're long gone, they're no longer valid, so why should we worry about them? Inserting them back into today's environments would be like trying to force a cog or a gear from an old machine into a modern-day computer. It's just not going to work. To insert just means to put something in a smaller place, like you insert a coin in a machine in order to buy a soda.
Right. So here, the idea is that you can't insert extinct animals into today's environment because it would be like putting an old piece from a machine into a new machine, and that's not going to work. The results would be unpredictable, to say the least. And the reason why this isn't going to work is that we can't know what will happen. When we can't know what will happen, then that means it's unpredictable. It can change in ways that we cannot or we are not prepared for. To say the least here, this phrase is used when you want to say that you could have used a much stronger word to describe something. So I could also say, for instance, the movie was boring, to say the least, which means that the fact that the movie was boring was the smallest problem. There were many more bigger problems with the movie.
Right, so there are other problems besides these animals being unpredictable, and we just don't know what those problems would be. As wonderful as it would be to see an extinct species live again, the costs and risks of such projects are simply too high to justify. And if you justify something, you make it worth your effort. If you spend a lot of money to do something, then it's justified. If you don't get that result, then it's not justified, at least from the standpoint of conservation. So yes, indeed, we can save species that are about to go extinct with that money instead of wasting it on bringing back those furry elephants. And currently, it makes more financial sense to try and save the species we are fortunate enough still to have. And that's basically what I said. It makes financial sense. It's a better use of our money to try to save these various animals that are about to go extinct. So yeah, I think I'm more toward that. It would be cute to see those elephants again, but nah, we'll pass. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们今天要来练习文意选填的题型。这个题型主要是考大家对于词汇、惯用语还有转折词的掌握，测试你对这些词语的运用能力。建议同学们在动笔前先快速浏览题目的10个选项，判断它们的词性时态哦。好，来看 A effect， 通常当名词来表达影响结果，那如果是当动词则有实现造成的意思。 B resources 是指资源，是个名词。 C moved on 它表示继续进展发展，它有可能是过去式，也有可能前面搭配了 has have 是用完成式表达。那么 D far-fetched 它是形容很牵强的、很离谱的、难以置信、不切实际的。 E risks 它可以是复数可数名词来表达风险危险，也可以是单数动词去表达说冒险做某事冒着什么危险。F 是形容词 excellent 表示很棒的、出色的。G sense 它可以当名词来表达感官知觉、感觉、意识等等，那当动词就可以表达意识到什么、感觉到什么。其实同学们看到这个字，你也可以马上就要想到说它常常用在 a sense of 什么什么来表达什么什么感，像方向感、成就感等等，或是也常用在 make sense 去表达合理、有道理的意思。再来 H 是名词 stability 表示稳定、稳定性或是稳固。 I taken over 它有占据、接手的意思，那它有可能是被动语态，或者是呢它搭配了 has 或是 have 用完成式的方式表达。 J involved 它可以是动词 involved 的过去式或过去分词，表达牵涉、包含。那它其实也可以当形容词去形容是参与的、专心于什么的。如果同学们对以上这些词语够熟悉，其实我们刚刚这个思考过程是可以很快的哦。那我们接着就来进入题目的部分吧。第一题，我们看到他这边写说 Surprisingly, this scenario might not be as 空格 as it sounds。 好，我们看到 be 动词搭配 as as it sounds， 这个 sound 是连缀动词嘛，这时候我们就要知道这个 as 跟 as 中间应该就会摆形容词咯。那所以可能的选项有 D far-fetched， F excellent， J involved。 由于课文它一开始是提到想象生活在这种有长毛象的世界嘛，这听起来很难以置信，所以我们是选 D far-fetched， 是表达那种难以置信、不切实际类似的语义。好，那么看到第二题 The grasses that covered these landscapes happened to be 空格 at reflecting the sun's radiation。 我们会用 be good at 什么，或是 be excellent at 什么什么来表达擅长某事物、善于某事物，所以这个答案很简单，就选 F excellent。 第三题 As mammoths disappeared, the land was 空格 by shrubs and small trees。 我们看到 was 点点点 by 点点点，这就是被动用法嘛，那就只有 I taken over 可以选了。第四题 Reintroducing mammoths could reverse this 空格 reverse 它有逆转、彻底改变的意思，那空格前面有 this 表示说这边我们要填入名词，而且不能是复数名词哦。从语义上来看，前一句的课文它在表达长毛象消失带来的影响，所以就可以推测这边是要表达逆转这个影响，答案选 A effect。第五题 Indeed, many extinct species played an important role in maintaining the 空格 of their natural environments， 维持自然环境的空格。那这边我们当然是填入名词，从语义上来看可以推测它是要表达维持稳定性，所以答案选 H stability。第六题 However, not everyone 空格 in conversation thinks de-extinction is a good idea。 这个句子它的动词是 thinks。好，那我们其实用 not everyone thinks 点点点就可以表达并非每个人都认为怎么样，所以可以判断这个空格加上后面的 in conversation 是用来修饰主词，那这边我们就要填入分词咯，用分词片语的方式去形容主词。好，那这边就只有 J involved 最适合了， involved 后面也常常会搭配介系词 in， 所以这个 in 也是一个判断的重点。好，第七题 There are limited 空格 available for conservation efforts。 保育工作可用的什么什么有限，这边是要填入名词，那从语义上来判断可以推测说它是要表达资源有限，我们就直接选 B resources。 好，第8题 Moreover, the planet's environmental systems have 空格 since 点点点。这边呢，它是用到 since 搭配完成式来表达自从什么什么已经怎么样了。空格里面我们要填入过去分词 PP， 那就只有 C moved on 可以选咯。那第9题它有写到说 The costs and 空格 of such projects are simply too high to justify。 费用和什么什么太高了，那很容易想嘛，空格里面是要填入名词，什么什么太高了呢？我们可以推测它是要表达费用和风险太高了。我们答案选E risks。第10题 It makes more financial 空格 to 点点点，我们就只剩下最后一个选项 sense。那用 It makes sense 就是表达合理、有道理或是有意义的意思。It makes more financial sense 则是表达在经济上更有意义。好，那这题答案就选 G sense。以上是今天的讲解，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Undo. You'll have to work hard to undo the damage that you have done. Scenario. The more likely scenario is that she'll arrive late and ask to see my notes. Strive. We're striving to finish the report before the end of the week. Radiation. Too much exposure to the sun's radiation can cause skin cancer. Preserve. More effort needs to be made to preserve the city's historical monuments. Conservation. Lance works for an organization that focuses on ocean conservation. Endangered. Giant pandas are no longer considered endangered, though their numbers are still low. Moreover. Tickets will be on sale starting this evening. Moreover, the first 10 buyers will receive a discount. Insert. After spending decades in prison, the man found it hard to insert himself back in normal society. Justify. I can't justify spending thousands of dollars on a new pair of shoes.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.